Hi, this is June Stanley. This is my EDL 853, Module 3. Special Education Interviews. I interviewed Ted Rivera, SPED teacher, Ms. Taylor, my administrator, and Anita Russell, a paraprofessional. I had to actually look up Child Find because I didn't know what it was. Now I do. And so procedures. Ted, the SPED teacher, said that there's mailings, web pages, editorials, and then his contacts in the community because he lives in a small community and a lot of people know each other. And then as for screening, it's high school, so teacher discipline problems, you look at their test scores and class observations. So most of these kids are already identified unless they come from somewhere else possibly. And Anita, my paraprofessional, when she's working in the classrooms with certain students, she notices other students. She tries to see if maybe there's a disability there or discipline problems, and she talks to the teachers about them. And then my administrator, Ms. Taylor, once again, mailings and a web page, and as for the screenings, all those feeder schools where the kids are coming in, if they're not identified, then she talks to the teachers, she talks to parents, looks at test scores, and talks to the SPED teachers. So the most challenging part of your SPED role, the SPED teacher, I hear this over and over again, the paperwork. It's just one reason I wouldn't want to be a SPED teacher. And the parents can be very difficult. And then as with any teacher, just having enough time to do everything. And the last one, this is my word, uncooperative. And it was mentioned by Anita, the paraprofessional, and my administrator. They did not use this word. But I do, because I used to really work with the SPED teachers, and I don't understand why some teachers had so much resistance to doing it. I thought it was important, and I learned a tremendous amount from them. But all three of them mentioned this as one of the more frustrating parts of their job, and so I label it uncooperative teachers. So Anita also said she goes around to all the different classrooms. She's got all the different students, teachers, and so just scheduling that is a challenge, and then learning all those people, the teachers, the administrators, the students, the parents. And Ms. Taylor said laws, keeping up with the laws, and this is a constant in almost all of her answers to my interview questions. Laws comes into it. Time management, IEPs are really time consuming, and then dealing with the parents may or may not be difficult, but of course often it is. And so most rewarding, every single one, all three, said helping the students. That was the first thing out of their mouths in, one phrase or another. And Ted really liked watching the parents learn too. He would show them what he could do, and then they would take that home and help their kids. And he also enjoys working with the teachers. And I co-taught with a SPED teacher one year, and it was awesome. And I was not looking forward to it. I didn't think I was going to like this guy, but it was awesome. We both learned a lot from each other. Anita Russell, paraprofessional, said basically the same thing. She loved helping the students, and she enjoyed helping the teachers, and she liked getting to know the parents also. Ms. Taylor, pretty much the same thing. She had a little broader view, that she looked at it more in terms of the whole school and broadening teachers' vision to include SPED and engaging with the parents. So what kind of advice on SPED staff supervision? Ted, the SPED teacher, he's been a SPED teacher for over 30 years. He's a tremendous wealth of knowledge. And he said, and this all takes time, spends time with the new staff and work with them on the scheduling, work with the teachers on their scheduling, have an open door, and just have time for them. And that's difficult because there's not enough time as it is. And Anita said that she needs help with a whole bunch of things, the scheduling, teachers, the laws, students that are particularly difficult. And she also said having a quiet place to work is really beneficial. It's a need for a lot of students to have someplace they can get away and just do one-on-one. Ms. Taylor, my administrator, laws and rules, make those clear to the staff and meet with all of them as a group regularly, making time for that, And then really work closely with the head sped teacher, because he or she is the one who is managing then all the staff underneath him or her. And he or she is the one that's the expert on SPED. So parents, Ted said, and I've experienced this myself, is that parents of SPED students can be extremely protective, and that can make them then difficult. You know, when emotions come in and it's your kid, a lot of times you're not as rational as you should be or could be. And so he said, you just have to let them make sure they know that you love the kid, that you're, or at least that you really, really care, and make sure you communicate a lot, daily if you have to, and really, really listen. Listen while they rant if need be, but also be very firm, because the SPED teacher is the expert. He or she cares about the student and is the expert. And so if the SPED teacher knows what should be done, then the teacher must hear very firmly, this is what your child needs. This is what we need to do. And Anita, kind of the same thing, but she said she works with the parents and she shows them, this is what we do. This is what I do with your child. And here, try it. You do it at home. And she includes the kids when she has these discussions, and she makes sure that everything she explains is done really patiently and carefully. So Ms. Taylor, once again, laws, lots of communication. Think of the kid first, which means sometimes you have to be really firm with the parents. So regular ed teachers, some are great, some are, not so much. They don't think SPED is very important. It's just an extra burden on them. And so Ted says, well, he goes out and he really tries to get to know them casually, like seeing them in the store and stopping to talk, having a beer, meeting in the lunchroom. He asks them for lessons and looks at them and then comes up with very specific interventions that doesn't add to their workload. He says, just try this. And then he might come into a classroom and just observe and try to give the teacher something to help them out. Try to let them see him as a real asset rather than that pesky SPED teacher that's always bugging them to do interventions for his students. And Anita says she tries to really help the students. She may take a small group and help them out, and that frees the teacher not to have to teach those particular students for a short time. And then she looks at what's going on, and she might offer some solutions, and then follow up on that. And Miss Taylor, she says maybe this is not fair, but she tends to assign more SPED students or maybe the more difficult ones, the lower ones, to teachers who really care about them. So it's putting more of a burden on them maybe, but that's what she does. And for those teachers who are less receptive to SPED students, she gives what she called firm direction. And to those who are truly resistant, she gets, this is her phrase, she gives them a poke in the butt. I'm not sure exactly what that means. So advice for a first-year administrator. Ted says an administrator should depend on her seasoned SPED staff. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. And lean on them a little bit. Depend on them until you're worked in a little bit. And the administrator, it's her responsibility to know the laws and regulations. And so he says you need to do that, period. And being firm with parents and students. Anita kind of mirrors it, kind of saying the same thing. Consult with the head SPED teacher about basically everything. And she said, support us in the IEPs and student meetings. Don't just sit there, but dive right in, be a part of the meeting, and support your staff if there's difficulty with the parents. And just to care about SPED students. I've worked for administrators who really don't care. That's way, way on the back burner. And I've worked for administrators who are right in there, and that those students are important to them. And so, Ms. Taylor, laws, again, get to know the SPED staff, a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication, and time management. Just know from the get-go that IEPs and meetings with parents and meetings with sped staff, it's all time consuming. So I've sat in IEPs that lasted for hours. But you have to have them. They're really important for every one of those students, really important. So the role of the SPED teacher and the principal, Ted thinks his role is just helping the student succeed. And he does that by offering help and love and his own knowledge, materials, and structure. A lot of them really need structure. And Anita thinks that the SPED teacher is there to give her guidance about basically everything. That's her administrator, and provide materials and feedback. And the principal, she believes, should help in IEPs and also know the laws. That comes up over and over again. My administrator, provide framework and guidance and communication and managing. And she doesn't mention laws here, but that comes up over and over again. So what kind of characteristics should an administrator have regards to special education? And so Ted, the SPED teacher, a belief that special ed is important, the whole program, the students. You have to be flexible. You have to really love them. You have to be willing to make time. And once again, the administrator should know about the laws. And Anita, kind of the same thing, recognize that SPED students are a part of the school. Their success is the school's success. They're not just test scores that are always dragging the school down. They're more than that. And their success is really important. Administrators should be willing to help with the parents, help with the teacher, help with the scheduling. And Ms. Taylor, once again, laws, communication, time management, good time management skills. So here's my one reference. Thank you very much for listening.